Well, hello everyone. Thank you again so very much for sitting back down and joining me today. It is so very nice to meet you. If I have not already met you in some way, shape, form, or manner, my name is Ryan. And today we've got another review video for you today. This is another Severin release title. Between this one, the Al Adamson box set, the Lindsay Baker box set, and the Severin mid-year sale order that had arrived, and the Cruel Jaws bundle, I feel like there's been so much Severin content lately, but they're a good company, and they do good work, and I enjoy talking about it. But it's not planned. It just kind of happened to be that way. And I happened to watch this particular film, and I was so blown away by it. It was my first time watching it, and I really wanted to have a discussion about it, about why I think that it is so good, or just why it is so good. So that particular film that we're going to be talking about, as you can see from the title as well as the thumbnail, is going to be 1980's The Changeling. And this was one that was picked up from the Severin mid-year sale. We'll go a little bit into the actual release towards the end, but so this is this nice shiny slip. Excuse me, my sinuses, man, they're rough. So this is the interior, just the same, but the blue and the red. And here is a glimpse of the back. And this was the 2-disc. So one of the things that comes in here is the CD soundtrack. And as you can see, it's not in there because all I've been doing is listening to this CD soundtrack. So it's an amazing score, and that's one of the things that we will be talking about. So usually Severin slips are so snug. They're snug as a bug in a Blu-ray rug, but I got it. Okay, cool. So let's talk a little bit about The Changeling before going into this release in particular. So this is The Changeling. It was released in March of 1980. It was directed by Peter Medak. And very funny, just the year after this, Medak's going to do Zorro the Gay Blade. Total departure, total night and day with that. Then he's going to do Romeo is Bleeding. Roughly 10 years later, and even be featured in Masters of Horror, which I have a nice, interesting tidbit about that further on. The screenplay was written by William Gray and Diana Maddox, based on the accounts of playwright Russell Hunter, which I'll go into a little bit later as well. The cinematography is going to be done by John Kokelian. I'm not sure. He's done Michael Reeves's Witchfinder General with Vincent Price, Peck and Paw's Straw Dogs. So he already had done some very powerful work prior to coming on board with The Changeling. And interestingly enough, Medak was the third director to tackle The Changeling. The prior two, I did not make notes of their names, I should have, always come prepared. They left due to creative differences. When Medak joined the production, he had maybe a month to kind of fine-tune everything. So it kind of would have been interesting to see what it would have become had Medak not been at the helm. So as I said, this was released in March of 1980. The basic plot synopsis is it is a ghost haunted house story. It follows a composer by the name of John Russell, who is portrayed by the legend George C. Scott, one of my all-time favorite actors. He plays a broken man who has just lost his wife and daughter to an accident that is actually how we open the film. So he moves to Seattle, I believe it's Seattle, and he rents this enormous mansion that is owned by the Historical Society. His sort of liaison between the Historical Society is a woman by the name of Claire Norman, who is portrayed by George C. Scott's wife, Trish Vanderveer. And as he moves into that house, some paranormal activity begins to occur. But as John Russell the longer that John Russell lives inside of the house, the more mystery as to what happened in that house starts to draw him in. The story begins to unfold and may possibly play some connection to their Republican senator, Senator Carmichael. So that's the basic gist to The Changeling. Now, as I said before, this was written based on the accounts of the playwright Russell Hunter, and that was one of the things that actually surprised me the most when going into these special features, because to my knowledge, it wasn't actually listed on like in any of the opening credits. So that was actually a very big surprise to me because the film is based on personal accounts. But regardless, it wasn't something that when I watched this that I would have imagined that this was a true. I mean, we'll put air quotes, but true story. The film itself, based on Hunter's personal accounts, actually kind of happens in reverse. A little bit from based on his experiences and the way that he discovered everything, kind of happens in reverse a little bit, but pretty much the film is very one for one. For a lot of it, there's some added scenes and some added bits to the story, but it's very close to these accounts, and that's sort of what really surprised me when diving into these special features. Did not expect that whatsoever. And so the basic story: Russell Hunter had rented, or he was staying in this mansion in Denver, in a place called Cheeseman Park. It was the Henry Treat Rogers Mansion, and the film originally was going to be called I believe it was The House on Cheeseman Park or The House at Cheeseman Park. The Changeling is a much better title. It's a bit hand showing, I believe, but not really too much, because the overall story, we pretty much have everything by about midway through, possibly a little bit past midway through, but we really kind of just about have everything. But the fine details really are not the overall the overall weight to this film. So let's go a little bit into my thoughts on The Changeling. I, for one, think that this is a phenomenal movie. This movie actually scared the heck out of me. Now, as somebody who is a horror fan, who is a horror lover, you grew up watching those films that you were not supposed to watch at your age, that your parents said that you couldn't watch, but you found to watch them anyways. And then as you see more and more, horror fans become jaded, so that the scary is the cool. What is deemed to normally be scary, or what was normally scary, is the cool stuff. It's the stuff that really sort of jazzes us, or revs the engines when it comes to watching horror. But this particular film is literally firing on all cylinders, because there is not a weak moment to this film, nor is there a weak component to this film. The cinematography is gorgeous. The house itself is beautiful. We get actual exterior shots, and the interior is all studio, but it looks so cool and so gorgeous, and it is dripping with atmosphere. And the script is so very, very tight. If this was going to be anything to study screenwriting, this is a film to study how to write a very tight script, because that's really one of the things about this, is because even though it is a ghost story, it is a haunted house story, a supernatural story, there is a very solid mystery at the base of everything, because the paranormal activity that occurs in the house is pretty common, almost generic, I suppose, but it's the way in which the shots are composed. It's the way in which the pace is set and the scenes are flowing. George C. Scott's amazing portrayal of a broken man, which is really an interesting choice, because, even when Scott is playing goofier characters like Turgis in Dr. Strangelove, they're masculine roles. He is a masculine figure. And in this one, he is playing a composer, so somebody who is very light, very emotionally connected. And in this particular movie, the very beginning, he loses his wife and child in front of his eyes, and that sense of loss and desperation and depression carries through his performance in virtually almost the entire film. Because what I really enjoy is having him rent this enormous mansion that is way too big for one person, but it's fitting and it's realistic. And that's really some of the pieces that I think make this script so strong. Because to somebody who has just lost everything, it makes total sense, in an almost cathartic sense, to live in a place that is massive, to a place that you could get lost in, because it is a physical representation, a symbolic representation of his own internal loss and his emotional distress, and how how he attaches himself to the mystery of what occurred, what is at the root of the activity that he's experiencing, why he sort of gets so involved in that, because there's a massive hole or a gap in who he as John Russell is. And so it's very fitting that he would latch on to that as well. So that's really, I'm telling you, it's very, very smart, and it's very well done. And so, as I was saying before, through his portrayal and the shot composition, the lighting, the pacing, and the phenomenal score by Rick Wilkins, very heavy on piano, obviously, because John Russell is a pianist. But that alone is not what's giving us the whole atmosphere, but oh, it helps. And it makes these scenes to the point to where you're not jumping with fear. It's not that kind of film. But if you're wearing a jacket, there are scenes where that hoodie's going up, as it did for me. I never thought that a ball bouncing down a set of stairs could be so horrifying, or that taps turning on by themselves, floor by floor by floor, could be so horrifying. But to me, it really was. It was very, very, very scary. And I think that it's absolutely just a phenomenal, phenomenal film. And like I was saying, so to where it really is a perfect example of, to me, I think that it's much more a educational piece in terms of screenwriting, but there's so much to study on this film. It's never slow. It begins as one thing, as a haunted house story, but as I had said, there is a very solid mystery at the base of everything, and that really, really helps out. It really helps the film become so much more larger than it is. We're opening on a very, very strong point, emotionally speaking, because he lost his wife and child in the very first 5 minutes of the film, right in front of him, and it ends very strongly as well. And everything in the middle between those points flows very, very, very well. There's a great scene when he conducts a seance. He contacts a medium, and that's really where we start to get a little bit of what's going on in the house, where that really starts to become revealed to us. And he contacts a medium by the name of Lee Harmon, who's portrayed by Helen Burns, who, funny enough, she would have a role in Medek's Zorro the Gay Blade the following year. And that's, if you're going to look at something that's a little bit more, what's the correct word that I'm looking for? More systematically horrifying, as opposed to like the bouncing ball, that's going to be a scene that is more clearly horrifying. It's a really great scene as they're communicating with the spirit. She's using a pad and pencil, and she's using herself as a means to convey the answers that are being asked. And obviously, it gets very tense. It gets a little bit bombastic in the room, and she has this very blank face as she's just scribbling away on the pad, and her partner is pulling pads away as we sort to kind of get words. It's really, really good. Now, special feature wise on the Severin release, first off, the film itself looks gorgeous. It looks beautiful. It sounds beautiful. The score, oh my God, that score, that's all I can listen to. I think that honestly, this is a great film to check out for the October season, because it doesn't feel like, it's not that Halloween sort of feel, but it's literally one of the best horror films that I have ever seen. And it definitely tops as being one of the scariest movies that I've ever seen, which may sound strange to some people, unless you saw this film as a young child and you kind of remember some of these scenes from being so young and you have like nostalgic fear for it. But in my personal experience, this is one of the scariest films that I've ever seen, and it is, it really is so good. And the seance scene itself, the small bits of the ball and the taps, the echoing sounds, all of that stuff is so horrifying. But the story of what George C. Scott is trying to find out is mind-blowing, and it's disgusting, and it's horrifying, and it's so very sad. It's actually a very sad movie in a lot of ways. But so this particular release by Severin looks amazing. This is a gorgeous treatment that was done to this film. There is an audio commentary with Peter Medak on that. I have not been able to listen to that commentary yet. I'm finding myself, it's harder for me to listen to commentaries, to dedicate that much time, because I want to watch the features, and then, you know, in order to watch the commentary again, there is never a moment's rest in my house. So sometimes it's even hard to watch the films. But I can make time for that. I can stay up late and make time for that. There's a segment called The House on Cheeseman Park, which is where I found out about this supposedly true account. What was his name? It's the haunting. It doesn't say his name on there. It's the haunting true story of the Changeling, and there is a writer who he wrote a book all about this. He's a little bit of an eccentric character, but he's fantastic to listen to. I really enjoyed that segment. I really want to read his book. I really do want to read his book. There is an interview with Kenneth Wanberg, a music arranger that's all about the music on The Changeling. On here as well, we have an interview with the art director, a really great segment of the Psychotronic Taurus, where they are revisiting the locations that were in The Changeling, because a lot of this was done in Vancouver. It was a bit of a three-way tie between Vancouver, which most of it was filmed in Vancouver, bits in Seattle, and New York as well. Usually like a lot of Seattle to get those landmark shots in to where we can see this is Seattle, but a lot of it was done in Vancouver, to where this is a Canadian film. It actually won 8 awards at the inaugural Genie Awards in Canada. It won 8, one of those being Best Movie. And there's another feature on here with Mick Garris, talking about his experiences with the Changeling, his love for the Changeling, which coincides with why he approached and wanted Peter Medak on Masters of Horror, because of his work with the Changeling to Garris, Medak was a true master of horror, and I would definitely agree with that statement. So I don't know if the Changeling is available for streaming anywhere, but you owe it to yourself if you are a horror fan, if you are a George C. Scott fan, which really who isn't, a Peter Medak fan, or a fan of really great scores, or somebody that misses scores, because when you watch something with a really great score, it really makes you miss film scores. I mean, we're very much into, I mean, that's not to say that it isn't done anymore, but in recent years seems to be we're more interested in tonal sounds, which tonal sounds are great for atmosphere as well, but they're not memorable. They're not something that I'm going to remember, whereas when I listen to certain tracks on The Changeling, I remember those things. I feel like I'm in the house. You know, I feel the same way. I get the spine tingles. You know, it brings everything back up again. That's what a really good score has the power to do. Tonal sounds, not really. It's not something I'm going to go back and listen to, but you owe it to yourself to purchase this release from Severin. They did an amazing job. It looks fantastic. The features are great. Please check out The Changeling and check out this release from Severin Films. So everybody, thank you so very much for sitting down and listening to my opinions, my bit of a breakdown on Peter Medak's The Changeling. I really hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, please be sure to hit the thumbs up and like this video. There's going to be more additional content down the way, so please subscribe to the channel. We've got these individual reviews, sale hauls, box set adventures, so much more coming along down the pipeline. That was dumb. We're going to go past that. If you have a comment on The Changeling, Peter Medak, George C. Scott, Horror, Severin, or you just want to say hi, please be sure to leave a comment down below. I would really love to hear from you. Thank you all to everybody that has subscribed, that has liked the videos, shared the videos, almost at 100 subscribers, which is a really big deal for me. 20 was a big deal for me. 30 was a big deal for me, because I've made some incredible friendships doing this, and I really couldn't be happier. So please continue to support the channel if you really like what I do, because I'm really enjoying this. All of my social media and contact information can be found in the description box down below, but other than that, that's all that I've got for you today. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I sincerely hope that you enjoy the rest of your day.